Every day you wake up to something unexpected happening in the world of environment. It may be like Naivasha has broken its boundaries and now people have been displaced. The hotels have submerged. It may be like Nakuru, Lake Solai. Some community somewhere have been evicted by an investor who is taking up their land. NEMA has now shut down a certain company because of ABCD. Nairobi River is being polluted by the following. Every day something new is happening. Climate change is going to kill us. Climate change is going to destroy our businesses. We are going to have droughts. We are going to have flooding. We are going to have food prices going up. Every day you wake up these days, something is happening. Some new law is coming into action. Some new regulation. Now, in this particular video, I want us to go back to where all this began so that we can see where did these environmental laws start. And if we understand where the environmental laws started, then we can be able to see how far we have come, if we are in the right direction or we are going towards the negative. And then we can be able to tell which office is sleeping on their role. Is NEMA sleeping on their role? Or is it the Water Resource Authority? Or is it NCA? Or is it so and so? But then we must start from the beginning, going back to the basics, going back to the fundamentals, going back to the history or the origin of these environmental laws. And today in this particular video, I want us to look at where environmental laws began. And it takes us back all the way where I talked about Industrial Revolution in this video, where I was trying to explain how I think our ancestors caused climate change. The more I study this climate change crisis, the more I blame our ancestors. I feel like there are two things that our ancestors did in the past that caused climate change, that has brought us in this crisis that we are in today. Make sure to go and watch the whole of that video after this one. But I noted that by the 1960s, people could not deny the fact that they were now feeling the impacts of the degraded environment. They are the people who had degraded the environment, and now they are feeling the pinch, they are feeling the pain. And so what happened? Nations all over the world came together. And they came together so that they can form an organization that is going to look into these issues that were being raised and suggest and research and develop action plans that are going to help nations deal with the challenges that they were facing. The oceans had been polluted, the lakes were polluted, the rivers were destroyed, there was no fish, the forest had been destroyed, there was no raw material. These organizations that have been formed by all nations around the world is supposed to help and guide nations towards development in a way that will not cause damage to the environment. And this is where we have a body that was formed in 1965, and this body was established. Its name is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and its headquarters were in Vienna, which is in Austria. Now, this body is about industrial development because then it is industries that had caused the largest damage. And it got to work. But later on in 1972, there was an office or a branch, an organ of this body that was formed particularly to dedicate its attention to the environment. And this is the United Nations Environment Program. This was formed in 1972 and its headquarters, this one I must say, is in Nairobi, Kenya. In the same year, 1972, there was a meeting that was called for all nations throughout the world. And the aim or the goal of this meeting was to come and look forward into how the nations were doing with the challenges they were already discovering. And this meeting was called the Stockholm Conference. And during this meeting, all nations came up with 26 agreements that they all agreed are principle. They are the truth and the truth of everybody from all around the nations. And some of these things, for example, one of the principles they agreed on is that man is both creature and molder of his environment, which gives him physical substance and affords him the opportunity for intellectual, moral, social, and spiritual growth. Like all nations, they had come to an agreement that man is a creature, is a creator and molder of his environment. The beauty of having such principles is that if all nations can agree on one thing, then they can all sit down and come up with a way forward. So during this meeting, there is 26 agreements that were made. We call them the 26 principles of the Stockholm Declaration. So these 26 are called declarations that were made during this conference, and there was all the discussion and the action. Have you seen the way today, for example, right now as I record this video, there is all the meetings happening, and you're able to see conferences, the heads of nations and the relevant personnel are sitting, and everybody is addressing, is getting a speech. We have seen our president addressing the UN and so on. Such meetings is what we are talking about. So the first one of this nature happened in 1972, particularly for the environment. So after that, everybody went home. Every nation started implementing what they had agreed on. After 10 years, there was an anniversary party that was held. That is now in 1982. This time, the anniversary party was being held here in Nairobi. And all the nations came together, and now they were coming to look at how far are we from what we said we will do 10 years ago. And they came up with several things that they had discovered. Now listen to this, one of the declarations or one of the agreements. It was noted that during the last decade, new perceptions have emerged. One, the need for environmental management and assessments. So nations had realized there is need for that. Again, the intimate and complex interrelationship between environment, development, population, and resources. That is something else they had realized. They had also realized that there is a strain the environment generated and felt, particularly in urban areas. And this was being caused by the increased population that was now coming up into towns as countries were developing. So these three, just one among the many, a comprehensive and regional integration approach that emphasizes this relationship can lead to environmental sound and sustainable economic development. So why are they talking about such? It is because after the first conference, everybody went home and they had their goals and targets they wanted to fulfill. And then they realized the environment cannot be divided into nations. The environment is not governed by the national boundaries or the national boundaries that we have. The environment is not governed by the continental boundaries that we human beings have put in. For example, let's say, take an example of River Nile, which is the longest river here in Africa. It passes through several countries. It originates from Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria is shared by 3 countries: Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. So, where exactly does River Nile come from? Does it come from Kenya, from Tanzania, or from Uganda? So, who has the right to use the waters of Nile? Who owns Lake Victoria? So they realized that they have to come up with more than just national laws. They have to come up with mechanisms of handling natural resources that are not national, that are regional. Because you cannot cap the environment into what today we have as national boundaries. And so they decided that they need to change a few things here and there, but they committed to continue working on the action plans that they had said they will act on in the previous party. So these declarations, the Nairobi Declaration, or during this Nairobi conference, they decided they are going to continue doing what they said they will do during the first conference, that is the Stockholm Conference. 10 years again, they held an anniversary party once again, and this was held in Rio de Janeiro. Now, here, several things were noted. Nations agreed that principle number one, human beings are at the center of concern for sustainable development. They are entitled to a healthy and productive life in harmony with nature. They have agreed human beings are at the center of everything. They can drive the environment towards wherever they want to. However, they are entitled to a clean and productive life. Principle number 16, nations agreed that national authorities should endeavor to promote the internalization of environmental costs and the use of economic instruments, taking into account the approach that the polluter should, in principle, bear the cost of pollution with due regard to public interest and without distorting international trade and investment. Now here, the 16th agreement or principle, nations agree that every nation should come up with a way that ensures the person who has polluted the environment should take care of that mess that they have caused. So this is what this gave birth to something that we use called the polluter pay principle. You pollute, you have to pay for that pollution. You have to pay for the remedy of that pollution. Again, listen to another agreement they made, principle number 17. They said environmental impact assessment as a national instrument shall be undertaken for proposed activities that are likely to have significant adverse impacts on the environment and are subject to a decision of a competent authority. Nations have now agreed, this is in 1992, that it is important to have environmental impact assessments before projects are done. And every nation needs to have a competent authority that does this, that ensures that projects do not pollute the environment, and they will do that by imposing the environmental impact assessment. This was an agreement, a declaration that was made by all nations, by all United Nations. Can you now start connecting dots? Environmental impact assessment that today here in Kenya, NEMA is implementing was something that was agreed on in a table that had all nations around the world contributing to. And they said there is need for every nation to develop an authority, an office that is going to impose and implement these environmental impact assessments. So now that gives you an idea of where NEMA comes from, of where the National Environment Management and Coordination Act is coming from. The Environmental Management and Coordination Act that governs, is the biggest law that we have here in Kenya regarding environment, where it is coming from. It is backed by these conferences that happened from the very beginning. Now, this Rio Declaration or Rio Conference happened in 1992. It is not the end. These conferences keep happening every now and then, including today. We still keep on building. So we agree to something, the nations go, they implement, and then they come back and see what has worked, what has not worked, what is the new thing that has happened. And you can now tell, I believe by now you can tell, that after all is said and done, the world has some common agreements on who is harming the environment, who is responsible for degradation of the environment, and how to address them. Whether the UN, whether Trump says they do not support climate change, whether China says they're still going to put in and to establish coal factories or coal generated power, you now know that in the beginning, nations came together and they came up with ways, they came up with laws that govern how human beings use the environment. And the reason this was happening is because there was so much happening. There's so much damage that had happened. So then the question is, how well are we doing today with the environmental laws? When these people met in 1972, 1982, 1992, it feels like the intentions were right. The intention, one among many, was to ensure that the environment is used sustainably. How well are we doing today? And the question is, now do you see the laws that come down to what we do, what the county government does, what the national government does, that is through NEMA? Do you now have an understanding of where this is coming from? Tell me down in the comment section if now you understand the history of where these laws are coming from. Now, if you're a student, an environmental student, a new and aspiring environmental expert, you would want to know how exactly to become an environmental consultant. Or maybe you're already one, you're registered by the authority that registers expert, but you do not know how to start practicing, get clients, how to conduct environmental impact assessments. Worry no more. I have a program that is particularly designed for you. And in this program, I will teach you how to go about environmental impact assessment. Because I believe if you're capable of doing professional, relevant environmental impact assessments, then you can start making your own money. You do not have to wait for employment. You can go out and start creating your own job and even employ others. And we are going to be able then to reduce this problem that is facing Africa of unemployment. Now, if that sounds like something that you have struggled with or something that you have desired to do, this program, EIA Mastery Program, is a program where I take you through all that. I'm giving you all the knowledge and wisdom that I have gained from the years of practice as an environmental impact assessment, and handing that knowledge down to you, showing you and holding your hand so that you can also become one of us. If that is something that you're interested in, the link is below. Please make sure to register, make sure to join the program. However, if you just want to have clarity on how to start and grow as an environmental consultant before you even get particularly into the mastery level, then you should, and I encourage you to join the training that I have developed for you. And this is where I am taking you through how to start and become a successful environmental impact assessment consultant. The links are down below. The link is also down in the comment section. If you have any concern, any question, please feel free to reach out. And I will be leaving my contact here, my email, my phone numbers, anything that you need environment, any services you need, visit my website, and I will see you in the next one. But till next time, bye-bye.